Morning. My name's Frank Zacarri, and this is Life Altering Events. Now, we all know, ladies and gentlemen, life is not easy, and it is certainly not fair. We go through our life hoping for the best, but sometimes things change. My guest today, I'm so excited to have Cindy Cline on as my guest today. Cindy grew up in a small, tight-knit community in near Galveston, Texas. And she had it all. She was the head cheerleader. She was elected homecoming queen. She was the it girl growing up in Galveston, and it looked like everything was positive and moving forward, and life couldn't be better for her. Then it all changed at a very young age. So I can't do her story justice. So I am going to bring Cindy Cline in. Cindy, welcome to Life Altering Events.
Hi, good morning, Frank. Thank you. It's a joy to be here with you. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you. Thank you. So you're doing this, you're finishing high school, things are good, you're getting ready to go to college, maybe you're the homecoming. Everything is great. Everything is
wonderful. My life was like a fairy tale, living a fairy tale. And I appreciated it. I loved it, and it was great. And I thought that was just going to continue happening.
So things are moving right along, and then we have disaster strikes. What happened?
My older sister, who was 13 years older than I am, she was an actress between New York and California. She was in Soylent Green and Dragnet and modeling and living the good life herself. She was living in Malibu. She ended up having an accident in the mountains of California. Sadly, she wasn't wearing her seatbelt, and she went through the windshield, which left her with significant brain damage and left her in a coma and left her paralyzed for a long period of time, well, for the rest of her life, the remainder of her life. She was in the hospital for 9 months, and everything changed. Our whole family dynamic changed, of course.
So you get the phone call, which my family has received also. Go through that initial emotion when you get that call.
Well, it was right before Thanksgiving, and we get the call from the hospital to come right away. You need to fly to California from Texas right away. Your sister's been involved in a horrific automobile accident, and she may not make it through the night. And it was devastating. It was devastating. So my mom and I hopped on the next plane out of Houston, Texas, and flew to California. And when we went into the ICU room, well, she was in a coma. She was not, there was nothing happening.
Mm-hmm.
She was on life support machines, breathing machines. And they said, tried to prepare us for what we were going to see when we walked in. She had broken, her neck was broken, her face was cut up, as you can imagine, having gone through the windshield. She was wearing a halo brace with the
drills and holes in there.
Screws into their head. Her face was all cut up, her head was shaved, and she's on life support. Now, I'm in my 20s, and I've never seen anything like this before. And I really, when I walked into that room, I just felt my stomach I felt like I was going to throw up and faint all at the same time. I just stood paralyzed in the room. And my mom went past all the equipment and grabbed my sister's hand, and she put her mouth down by my sister's ear, and she said, my precious, precious little baby girl, I'm here with you. And then little bubbles started blowing out of my sister's breathing tube. And she started breathing very rapidly. So that was the first indication that she had heard anything. They'd had no response from her whatsoever. So that was the beginning. Oh, I'm getting emotional just talking about it.
It's okay. It's okay. Take your time.
That was the beginning of a very long healing process for my sister, but that was the beginning. Now, we were told that, well, just because she blew some bubbles out did not mean she was going to make it. So we went every day. We were waiting to see, is she going to live another day? And she did live another day, and then she lived a week, and then she lived several months, but she was in a comatose state. So that's how we were living. That's how we spent Thanksgiving that year,
Mm-hmm.
is watching and hoping and praying that she would come through this, but also that the highest good would unfold, whatever that was.
Right.
If you understand what I'm trying to say.
Exactly.
It wasn't meant for her to survive the accident. We didn't know.
Right.
Things we don't necessarily know.
So after 9 months in the hospital, she survived.
She did survive. Her vocal cords were damaged, so they didn't think she would ever speak again. But she did go on to restore her voice, but not to the same pitch and tone that she had before. She was left with significant brain damage and left with significant paralysis as well.
Mm.
So her life as she knew it had come to an end. I mean, she was an actress and a model. That life as she knew it was over.
Right.
And we took her from California because she needed care, and brought her back home to Texas. And I became her caregiver for the next 10 years.
At 20 years old,
I was in my 20s.
Yes.
I was in my 20s, yes.
Wow. That's a huge responsibility for somebody so young.
Yes, it grew me up very, very quickly. And it was a hard road.
I'll bet.
I'm very compassionate by nature. It's just my nature, but I was not prepared for the emotional and the physical and the mental. I wasn't prepared for what it was going to take to care for her. And but I did the best I could. And she had therapy here in Houston at one of the finest places, TIRR here in Houston. And we all did the best we could do through that time period.
Having lived through it with my brother, there's a lot of the unknowns, the infections.
Yes.
And the additional surgeries. And then the changing of medications, and then the impact because you changed the medication. You went all through that, correct?
And the therapies, and where her halo, after her halo brace came off, she had another brace that she had on her neck. Well, where that brace was, nobody could, we would comb around her hair, but then we realized, oh my God, the brace was cutting into her head. So then she had a big sore on her head, and that had to be surgically repaired. Yeah, it's a huge responsibility.
It is. It's absolutely the case. So your sister, when we spoke, you said she had a goal. She had this time frame that she was going to be better. What was that?
I don't know where she got that, Frank. I really don't. But she had in her mind, and now keep in mind she had brain damage as well. So she had in her mind that she would be completely healed 10 years down the road, 10 years from the date of her accident, that she would be able to talk normal, that she'd be able to walk, that she'd be restored to 100%. And we talked about what would happen if that doesn't come to fruition. I hope it does come to fruition, but what if it doesn't? What is the plan? And she never would entertain another plan because she had it so set in her mind that this would happen. This would come to fruition. And so she was not able to create a life for herself post-accident. She wasn't. She'd lost her friends, her fiance, her career. She lost everything. That was her life prior to the accident. That was all gone. And so trying to create a new life for herself, you have to have a desire and a willingness to make peace with what is now and make the best of it if you can. But she had really stuck in her mind that this she was going to be okay. and
Right.
resume the life she had.
Hmm. And then that didn't happen.
At the 10-year mark, very sadly, she ended her life to suicide,
Mm.
and we lost her to suicide. And in her goodbye note, she writes, oh, excuse me.
It's okay. It's okay.
She writes, oh, she said, I love each one of you so much. I love you so much. And I don't want you to be mad at me. She said, please don't be mad at me. She said, I'm going home.
Hmm.
I'm going home. And so, yeah, we lost her. We lost her to suicide. I'm sorry, I didn't anticipate crying like this.
That's all right. This is something that everyone, I hope everyone can't relate to, and that never has to. But it's it's a part and parcel of this life, and you can't lose somebody that you loved and put in so much energy and effort with and for, um, and be able to take that. That's an incredible body blow.
And you know what, Frank? I was never mad at her. I understood, but oh my God, I mean, it just, your heart, you feel like a Big Mac truck has run through your soul. And how do you carry on when you have this happen in your life? And plus the fact that she was my older sister.
Hmm.
She was always my go-to person.
Right.
She was my mentor. I mean, she's 13 years older than me. And so for me to then become her caregiver and have to try to explain things to her, and it was a reversal of roles, which was not happy for her. And yes, I was never mad at her. Sad and sorrowful to lose her, devastated, yes, but never mad at her. Never mad.
Correct. It
Mhm.
seems that if someone comes to that point, it's their choice, it's their decision, and
Yes.
as hard as it is, um, we accept it and pick up the pieces and move on. What you did, you moved on, and then we had more things occurred.
Yes.
What else happened?
Well, before my sister passed, I did lose my stepfather to suicide as
Hmm.
well. And then after my sister's 10-year anniversary of her accident, I lost her to suicide. And after her loss to suicide, I was so devastated from my sister's loss to suicide that what I came to realize is if we have no hope for the future, if we lose our hope, we lose our life. I mean,
Hmm.
it really is that simple. We must have hope that things are going to work out, maybe in ways in which we cannot see or that we anticipated, but that things will work out. Even in ways that are more expanding than what we could even imagine. So to help me with my own grief and despair, I call it a God job. I started interviewing people who had been through devastating situations.
Hmm.
Interviewed 25 people who had been through devastating situations and asked them how did they get through it and what gave them hope. So I had created this book called Always Hope after about 8 years actually, after my sister passed. I interviewed the people that are in the book and had a video session with them and had a photo shoot with them. So it was a beautiful coffee table book to give people hope.
Hmm.
After that book, several years later, I lost a brother-in-law to suicide. And then several years after that, I lost another brother-in-law to suicide, which, you just never prepared. We're just never prepared to lose people like this. And then last year, very sadly, I lost my nephew to suicide. He left behind his wife and 3 children. The children are in their 20s and the youngest one is a teenager.
Oh,
So that
God.
That when I got that phone call at 5 a.m. from his wife, I knew when I picked up the phone, when I heard the phone ringing, I knew nobody's going to be calling me at 5 a.m. unless something really bad has happened.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I lost my nephew.
My God, we all live in dread of that call. You even before you get out to reach for the phone, you have this sense of doom that something horrible is about to occur, and then you brace yourself. Now, Cindy, you wrote something that I thought was just outstanding. You said there's so much guilt you feel when someone close to you takes their own life, even though you know it's not your fault. You play it over and over in your head. I had my share of depression and grief and days I felt like I couldn't go on. But I believe in the spiritual tools. I learned having hope saved me.
Mm-hmm.
Expand on that for us.
Mm. You know, with each one of these losses, starting with my stepfather, you know, intellectually, it's not your fault. We don't cause people to end their lives.
Mm-hmm.
A breakup doesn't cause someone to end their life. People have breakups every day, all day long, and they don't end their lives. But what I have found in myself personally and with other people and suicide groups that I'm involved with, that guilt factor of replaying everything you've ever said that could be construed as a negative connotation for the person who you've lost. I go over in my mind, and others have that I'm surrounded with that have lost loved ones to suicide. What if I hadn't said this? What if I had made the time to go for dinner? What if I had whatever it is in your mind that you would have done? There is that guilt that is there, which is different. Grief is different for those who've lost loved ones to suicide, because there is that guilt there. Emotionally, that's what is played over and over again, can be. And so you have to really work very hard with understanding that when someone's made up their mind, there's really nothing you can do to stop it. Mm-hmm. Really. You're not responsible for another person ending their life. And so, yes, I fell into a deep depression when my sister passed. I sought counseling. I sought counseling for myself, because when we are depressed, I have now, my family has a history of suicide. When we feel depressed, we need to reach out for help. We need to call a friend. We need to get therapy. We need to, if needed, if the depression's clinical and bad enough, you may need medication to help you through that time. I did get on medication to help me through my depression. I knew the signs well enough to know I've got to get help from myself, or else I'm going to end up in the same situation as my family members. I have to get help for myself and find a way to lift up and out of this depression that I'm in. And if I can't do it on my own, then I'm going to be open to getting the help that I need from the professionals who know how to do this.
And as tough as that is to do, and you committed yourself, I'm going to make a difference. And now you're a director of a sacred ministry. Mm-hmm. Tell us about that. How did that help you in your recovery, and how are you helping others now?
Well, helping others helps me. Helping others, truly, if we can go out and busy ourselves with making a difference in other people's lives, that helps to heal us. I'm the director of Sacred Service Ministry at Unity of Houston, and I also do seminars and workshops and lectures and coaching for people to heal. You have to heal the pain, because if you don't heal that pain that you have, and that grief that you have, how can you go on and create the life you want to create, right?
Right.
It just keeps you stuck in that. You can't, as long as you're stuck in that pain and that grief and that loss, and we can get stuck in there for a very long time. People can be stuck in there for years. But it's acknowledging, and sometimes we put that pain off. I don't want to feel this pain. I want to busy myself so much that I'm not going to even think about the pain. But here's the thing about grief. It will come. It will come at the most unexpected times because you have to go through it.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the missions that I am about is helping people experience that pain. You have to go through it. It's not going to go away. Experiencing the pain helps to heal the pain.
Mm-hmm.
And once you're able to acknowledge it and feel it, I have felt like the pain would kill me. That's why I didn't want to go through the pain. I honestly thought the pain felt so bad that if I really immersed myself in it, I thought it would just kill me. I don't know how, but I thought the pain would kill me, but it didn't. You have to walk through the pain in order to get through it. And then helping other people. That's my passion, is helping other people deal with their own pain, their own wounds, and then they can create and live the life they truly deserve to live, that they truly want to live. We can't create happiness for ourselves if we never walk through the pain of what's holding us back.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I discovered with grief, and tell me if you see that in your seminars, it doesn't go in order.
No.
And you think you're moving up to acceptance, but then all of a sudden you're back to anger.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
How do you know? And I've had a parent who lost a child, like you lost your sister, like your mother, and they said it never goes away, but it's not as overwhelming. Is that what you found?
That is so true. And I just had a ceremony during Christmas time for those who had lost loved ones to suicide. We came on a Zoom call, and we recalled a favorite memory of the loved one we lost to suicide, and then we lit a candle for them. And here's how I began that Zoom meeting: that you're right, the pain never goes away. It doesn't. It's always there, but you do learn to live with it. You
Mm-hmm.
do learn, and it may sound crazy, but you learn to make peace with the pain. Just like when I started crying when you were asking me about my sister, I mean, it just triggered right then and there. That pain just came flowing back up.
Mm-hmm.
But, I'm at a place where I can be at peace with that pain. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And life goes on, and I can hear this guy outside with his blower, so I hope this doesn't interfere too badly with you. But you try to pick up the pieces and move forward, but that the memory is always there, and that feeling is always there. And I was told by a counselor one time, they said, and you said it too, Cindy, you want to feel it.
Mm-hmm.
You want to have it, even though it hurts, you still want that, because that's that love, and the memory is never going to go away.
Right.
That's incredible.
Another thing I'd like to share is looking for signs
Mm-hmm.
that things are okay. And if we have time, I want to share a brief story.
Yes, please.
My mother was my best friend. I just cherish my mother. And she lived to be 94, and I lost her 4 years ago. Unexpectedly, she just left. She just left. Her heart stopped beating and she left. But I didn't know that I guess at 94, you do have a sense that your mother's not going to live forever.
It's probably coming close.
It's probably coming close. But she left unexpectedly, and I was devastated by that loss as well. And I busied myself. I got so busy with so many things. I just didn't have time to really experience the grief. And I was leaving church where I work one day, that I had worked very busily that day. And then it's like an ocean wave of grief just washed over me in the parking lot. and I just started crying uncontrollably, just, just grief, just that wailing grief. And I finally cried it out and was able to compose myself well enough to get in the car and drive. And there, at this portion of the city, this part of the city, there is usually always two street people that are on the street that I recognize and I know, and I say, "Hi, John, how are you?" and have given resources to. But this day, there was a different street person on the street, and I had a red light. And so I'm at the red light, and the street person comes in front of my car, and tears are still running down my face, and the street person just stands there. I couldn't move the car. He's just standing in front of the car. So I'm looking at the street person, and he comes around to the side of my driver's side of the window, and he looks at me, he goes, "Shh." I was like, okay. So then he goes, "Roll the window down." And I was like, I normally do and just roll the window down for somebody I don't know, but I rolled the window down, and he took my hand and he kissed my hand. And then he said, "You can go now." I was like, that was my mother. I know that was my mother.
That's exactly what she did with your sister.
Right. Yes. Now, I never saw that street man again, ever.
Wow.
So that comforted me in such a huge way. You're right. You know what? I had not really put that together. That is exactly what she did with my sister. And that's exactly what she did with me. Yes. Oh, yeah. So look for those signs.
Yes, absolutely. Look for the signs. When my mother died, my dad stayed at the house we all grew up in. He continued to live there. And he had said he's hearing noise in the house. So he gets up and he's moving around. He doesn't see anything. And then he hears like voices, and he's looking around. He doesn't he doesn't see anything again. So he sits down, and something else occurs, like a picture of her falls.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Right. And he says, "Okay," my mother's name was Carm. He says, "Okay, Carm, you made your point. Now that you're here, make yourself useful, make some coffee or something." But and he made it funny, but talking to him later, he just said, "That was it. That's your mother saying, I'm okay.
Yes.
Go on with your life. It's okay."
Yes. Oh, absolutely. So I would say be on the lookout for signs. After my sister passed, the first rodeo I ever did in person, I had never done a rodeo interview before. I was scared to death. And my sister, being in the show business, she was very articulate, very beautiful, very polished, very poised. So I was praying to her, "Marion, please show me a sign that you're here with me. Okay, show me a sign you're here with me on this interview. I'm so afraid." I get out of the car. I'm looking in the sky at the clouds, trying to see if I can see her face in the clouds. I'm like, where are you? Well, my sister and I always had a goal. We wanted to be the Red Lip Sisters as a singing group. She and I. And so we always gave each other red lips everything. So I go in for this interview, and there was another guest there. And I go and I shake the guest's hand. Well, I was sweating so bad. My palms were sweating so bad. The guest goes, "Oh my goodness, you need a tissue." So she pulls out of her purse tissues that have red lips all over them.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, "Marion, you're here. I can do this because you're here." So yes, those signs are there. They are there. Look for them. Our loved ones are with us. They're with us.
We have another category on the show, Cindy, which is called near-death experiences.
Oh, yes.
And one of the things that I've had a couple of guests on, and they said, you never go away. No. The body, the physical piece that goes away, but the energy lives on forever. And it's there, and you have to look, exactly what you said, look for the signs because they're there. And as
Yes,
long as you're looking, they will help you.
yes, absolutely. When my sister was in college, she came home from college. Now I'm like 5, okay, because she was 13 years older than I am. My dad in November was sharing with her, they were having a very philosophical conversation. Now, my dad wasn't sick in November,
Mhm.
but he told her nothing ever dies. He called her Pumpkin. Pumpkin, nothing ever dies. It just changes form. That's all that happens. And then in December, he contracts spinal meningitis.
Mm.
And he told her in November, I want 4 days in which to prepare before I leave this body behind. So he gets spinal meningitis, goes into the hospital, goes into a coma. On the 4th day, he passes. Okay. And my sister at that time, she was up for best dressed co-ed in the nation for college co-ed. So my father came to her in a dream, and this was back in the old before the announcement of who won best dressed. He came to her in a dream back in the dream was in the old days where the airplane steps came down.
Right, right.
So she was on the airplane coming down, and my father was at the bottom of the steps, and he handed her a yellow rose, and he said, I want to be the first to congratulate you. You've won best dressed co-ed in the nation. And she said, Dad, you're dead. How is it that you're here? And he said, Pumpkin, didn't I tell you? Nothing ever dies. It just changes form. And my sister did go on to win best dressed co-ed in the nation. So yes, those, they're with us. They are with us, definitely.
This has been amazing. And ladies and gentlemen, we're just about out of time. Thanks, Cindy Cline. Thank you so much for sharing, for opening up, and for letting everyone see and feel what it was you went through and how you survived and are thriving. So thank you so much for being here with us today.
Frank, thank you for the opportunity, and what a joy to get to know you. Thank you so much.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, as I said, we're just about out of time. No matter what life throws at you, ladies and gentlemen, and it is going to throw a lot at you, as we heard today, please do 3 things. Look up, get up, and never, ever give up. Pick up the pieces and start moving forward, and better times and better people will come in your life. If you'd like more information on Cindy Cline, you can go to her website. You can contact me directly, and I'll make sure it gets to her. You can see this show on ROKU TV or on my YouTube page, Frank Zacarri, and I will send a link to Cindy, and she'll put it out in all the places that she promotes what she does to her people. Now, let me leave you with this, ladies and gentlemen, as I do every week. None of us are in this alone. And the secret to walking on water is to know where the rocks are. And today, Cindy showed us where a lot of those rocks are. Join me again next week. We'll discuss another life-altering event. Thank you.